Yeah.
Like technically in Louisiana, you can get a DUI while riding a bicycle or a horse. Because the statute actually just says mode of conveyance. That if you are drunk or high while on a mode of conveyance, you can be arrested for driving while intoxicated while on a horse. And that is not the intent of the statute. It's not the purpose. It's not meant to protect anybody. All it does is just cause you have to get arrested, have to bond yourself out, have to pay for a lawyer, have to try to avoid a conviction that should never happen in the first place.
On a horse.
On a horse.
Yeah.
Now, I have only seen horses on parades here. I rarely see, like in Jackson,
It's the norm.
a
Huh?
horse might
Wait,
ride down the
norm?
street every now and then with somebody.
No, in Jackson.
Wait.
Yeah, Mississippi.
Okay.
But I have only seen horses here. But that is one to know.
But that's not just That's just not New Orleans. That's Louisiana in general.
The state.
That's the state.
Yeah.
You could be in North Louisiana, out in the country. If you are riding your horse drunk, you could technically get arrested.
What about a golf cart?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Wow.
You might get away with that here, though.
I've had somebody in New Orleans who got arrested for driving while intoxicated on a bicycle. So,
Really?
yeah, bicycle,
And
tricycle.
I would think that the bike would be a safe mode of transportation. You know, like if you can't get home and you had a few too many hurricanes,
Yeah.
just grab a bike on the corner.
100%. That's what people tell you to do under other circumstances.
But I can go to jail.
You can go to jail. You can get arrested and have to have a DUI that suspends your license. Have to
That
bond yourself out.
SR22 insurance.
But wait, Stravros, you don't need a license to drive.
Yeah, but
Ride
if you had a license,
Drive a bike, ride a bike.
right? You don't need a license. You don't need a license to ride a bike. But if you had a license and you catch the DUI while riding a bike, your
Yeah.
license still gets suspended. You could have
From the bike? I know you're lying.
This,
No,
I've
I'm
never
serious.
encountered
That's
this
the statute.
situation, so
The statute
This is
because your
interesting.
license automatically gets suspended by administrative rule with the arrest for the DUI. Now imagine a scenario where you're driving you have a CDL. That is how you make your livelihood driving trucks, and you want to be safe. You want to use a bike to be able to ride around the French Quarter during Mardi Gras, and you want to make sure no danger to your life and your livelihood. You use a bicycle. If you're drunk or high, and then you get stopped by a police officer, you could be arrested and have your CDL suspended, which not only takes care of your driving privileges, you could not drive trucks. You could lose your livelihood for a year or more, because you can, with a CDL, once it's suspended, you can't fix that. There's no hardship version.
I know.
You just can't drive.
And listen, I had an accident with the company can't insure you if you have had it in so many years. You would have to be an owner operator to even take on the risk. Me as an owner, I wouldn't even be able to have you as a driver anymore without my insurance skyrocketing
Exactly.
from a bike
Yep.
on Bourbon.
Yep.
And they got a bar in Crystals.
Yep.
See, I love New Orleans, but
I mean, New Orleans is
so intricate. So I can get.
You can have a drive-through daiquiri. You could go do it on a bicycle and still get arrested.
But imagine this drug paraphernalia, right? We can go to the store and buy grinders, pipes, bongs, lighters, all the things. But you put, green vegetable matter next to it. Now it becomes paraphernalia. But you allow us to buy these things. But if they're caught with an alleged drug, then it's paraphernalia. And it's just like, this doesn't even make sense.
Or you can buy kratom or one of the quote unquote artificial marijuana substitutes. Possession of it still qualifies as possession and distribution of a how do they say it? It's a fake, not fake. They say it
Synthetic?
as synthetic cannabinoid. Another charge that you can get arrested for.
But it's
Parsley.
legal for
Parsley,
them to
yeah.
sell.
Parsley.
Yeah, I had somebody arrested It turned out that what he had was Domino sugar in a bag that he was selling, pawning off his cocaine. He still got arrested for that charge.
I don't know if my mind is gonna be able to take much more.
Honey.
There's a lot of different ways to go to jail in
And
Louisiana.
I've seen that, but I've seen even in other states where people have had charges enhanced about things, and that's something that you brought up that people don't know. It doesn't have to be drugs. the officer just has to assume that it's drugs.
Suspect it.
And
that's
now
the language they use.
But the charge is it's drugs.
It is what it is.
And your ass going to jail tonight.
Correct.
And stand.
Correct.
And I run into, once this happens, they get an attorney like Stravros or Dwan, and the attorney comes in and says, hey, have you tested that? And they say, oh, no, we haven't tested it. And then it gets thrown out.
But then you've lost the thousands of dollars you spent on the bond and on the attorney and on the time you lost, and if you kept your job or you lost your job.
No. You've heard of John Thompson?
You know, that's a real popular name.
Oh, that's fair. Well, this man was, let's just say, he was wrongfully convicted here in Louisiana, and they had evidence that could have saved his life, right? He went up 8 times in Angola to be killed by this evidence that they failed to produce that would have saved him, right? So let's just say, even when that's attempted murder. You're going to get the needle, or however we kill people nowadays in the prisons, and because of what the state failed to do. He got awarded a judgment, I guess, here in state court, but they appealed it to the Supreme Court of the United States. And Clarence Thomas, coon ass, I think he gave the majority opinion. Was like, oh yeah, they did all this wrong, but you ain't entitled to this, essentially. So you can win a judgment on bad, let's say, prosecutorial misconduct, but that doesn't mean you're going to be vindicated in a way that you perceive. Now, there have been
or
some
made
people
whole properly.
No.
How do you can't make whole a person that's been in jail for years of their life, that have missed milestones with their family or missed chances to even have families. I just saw a guy, and I'm off of his name, but he had been in jail over a decade. His mom died, all while he was fighting it. And then it all came out that he was innocent the entire time. So he missed a chance to have a wife, and he missed a chance to have children. And, you give him a few $1 million, but
that's not gonna.
If I get $10 million and I'm 55 years old, or I'm 60 years old, and I can't even procreate, what do I do? Get a boat? How do I,
right.
how do you really get to enjoy the rest of your life when that does happen? So, luckily for us, those cases are older. I know it's happening everywhere.
Wait, excuse me. What do you mean that those cases are older?
Well, a lot of those people that were sentenced a decade ago, those are cases that attorneys like you that may not have been in the good old boy systems.
But honey,
it still
still
today.
going on.
Do you think it's as
yes
prevalent?
Yes.
Yes, in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you'll still have people. The bad old days where evidence was oftentimes routinely hidden or not turned over, that happens less and less, but it still happens. That happens. But not only that, you also have circumstances where people are prosecuted because, and they're not able to defend themselves because they're not able to obtain counsel that's able to help them, or circumstances where the evidence that they would have had doesn't get collected, or doesn't get preserved. So what would have proved their innocence is gone, and they're stuck as a result. I mean, you also have situations where the justice system is called the justice system, but it's not necessarily about justice. It's very transactional, and it's very much about vengeance. And where oftentimes in the prosecution side, they're presented as standing up for the quote unquote alleged victim. And in some cases, there is very much a victim or a victim's family, but sometimes the interest in making them happy overrides what might be really a fair outcome, and also might lead people to fight for circumstances that might be inappropriate, like deny the state. I've had circumstances where the state moves to exclude video evidence that might be exculpatory, or exclude text messages that might be exculpatory. It moved to exclude things that would hurt their case, even if it might really call into question the legitimacy of the charges.
Right.
Because there's much more of an interest in winning than necessarily getting to what's the right outcome.
Right. Which is how we met. Unfortunately. That is something, and I'll leave it nameless for right now, but Stravros, I had to retain him because there was an ADA that basically has an hard on for winning and not justice, in my opinion. You know, I bail bond, and we are responsible for, making sure the clients make it back to court on their selected court dates.
Of course.
And I encountered a client that during his process was reincarcerated. And during his trial, where he had a paid attorney, and it was on the minutes. Everyone knew he was in jail. Everyone knew he was answering charges in Jefferson Parish, a neighboring parish. Everyone. But instead of just putting a hold on him and making it a record as far as the bond, they waited until the 180 days. It's a statute here in New Orleans that says once a defendant has not been presented within 180 days, the bond forfeits.
Yeah.
Everywhere else in America, even in Mississippi, when the defendant is in custody and the state knows where they are, it's a dead issue on bond. Well, this ADA, is watching the 180 days and collecting money as if it is his personal gain. That's really crazy. So this bond was the better part of $200,000. And the guy not only became incarcerated while during trial, he was sentenced to time in Louisiana DOC.
Yeah.
The guy is still like with a hard on for me to pay the money to forfeit the bond.